Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. We've got a great episode for you today. Alex and Kylen sat down with the man himself, Buster Posey. I know we always want to hear from Buster. Giants had a rough series versus the Blue Jays. Plus, we have an all-time Remembering Some Guys segment for you as we approach trade season. All that and much more. But before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's is now the official sleep partner of the San Francisco Giants. You can save up to $1,200 on cooling mattresses at the Mancini's Sleep World 4th of July sale. Their cooling mattresses help regulate temperature, preventing overheating and keeping you comfortable until morning. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. All right, Alex, let's start with some Giants versus Blue Jays talk. And I think right off the top, I want to nominate a clear player of the series in Elliot Ramos. Not only did he start the game on Monday with a Little League home run, ended up hitting 2 more knocks, but he broke up Wednesday's no-hitter in the 9th inning at the last minute and flipped the bat while doing so.
Can I counter what Dylan sees?
Oh, you know what? That is a very rational and very strong choice.
Also, a fair amount was made of Elliot flipping his bat. This guy flips his bat after walks. He flips his bat every single time he has a bat in his hand. He throws his bat into the net on a swing probably once a series.
That's how he releases his bat.
He releases his bat every single time. I get Blue Jays fans being a little upset, but I saw some Giants people tweeting about it. I'm like, do you not watch him the rest of the year? He flips his bat every single time he has it in his hand. So,
yeah, shout out Elliot Ramos. I mean, the rest of the series obviously didn't go as good as Monday's game, but the performance he put up Monday from start to end, that was fantastic.
Yeah, he was the MVP of the series for the Giants. It was a reminder of when he's right. He's such a different kind of player than really what they have, but even most of what you see in Major League Baseball. He's like a football player. He's so energetic, and it's you see him running around the bases even in these for this team that's playing poorly in the season that's going poorly. And I think Tony's joked a few times when he came back from the IL, they heard him before they saw him. He's excited to be back. And excuse me, you and I did a lot of talking yesterday. So
we did.
We were together rarely doing some promotional stuff. But yeah, I think it's an interesting question with Elliot because he's kind of been pushed to the side of this whole Giants big three, and Jung-Hoo Lee's broken out, and Luis Arias and Casey Schmidt have been, Luis is an actual all-star. Casey has had kind of an all-star season, and you forget about Elliot at times. And he's a young guy who's been an all-star in the past, and he's capable of leading off for them at times, and he's capable of showing a ton of power. And I don't know where it goes for him. Probably going to come up in trade rumors over the next month because I think almost everybody except for 2 guys are going to come up in trade rumors. And he would make a lot of sense for a lot of teams.
That was going to be my next question. I mean, is the fact that he's a young guy, the kind of guy the Giants would be hoping to build a team around, kind of saving him from being traded in this situation? Or how bad of a selling would you think we'll be in?
I don't think it's saving him. I think, I think he's in that boat of guys like Buster. And I asked Buster in the interview coming up about Logan, kind of followed up on what he said a few weeks ago. And he's made it very clear he doesn't want to trade Logan. Bryce Elder's obviously untouchable for many reasons. But then I think there's a group of guys that we've talked about. There's a group like Robbie Ray and Arias who are easy trade candidates. And then there's a group of guys who are, we wouldn't mind getting rid of some of that money, or we wouldn't mind opening up that roster spot. The Devers, the Adames, Tyler Malley, Adrian Hauser, guys like that. I think there's another group of guys, and we can talk about Jung-Hoo as well, where it's kind of you have to listen just because you're in this position and you have to see how you can get some pitching. And I think Elliot, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Casey Schmidt are probably pretty similar in that you'd love to have them on next year's team. You'd love to have them for years to come. And Elliot and Casey in particular are young guys who are cost controlled, but you also kind of have to listen because you have such a pitching deficit that if someone's like, hey, we'll give you a good young starter for your good young outfielder, you have to have those conversations. And I think they will. And I would imagine they're going to get a few calls on Elliott because he's such a good fit for so many teams. If he's the defense hasn't been great the last couple of years. I think it's been much better this year than last. But again, he's also a good fit for the Giants. So just they obviously have a lot of guys on the infield, don't have a lot of guys in the outfield, and I don't think they have guys with that many guys with that kind of energy. And, and we've also seen what he's capable of when he's right. So an interesting one, and somebody who's kind of been off the radar most of this season and most of our trade deadline discussions, just because he was literally off the radar on the injured list, but comes back and he's been their best player the last couple of weeks. So I think that just think we'll see his name start to pop up in some, whether it's has any reality to it or not. I think you're going to start to see some other teams and maybe some national guys start to be like, Elliot Ramos is a good fit in a lot of places.
Well, we'll obviously get to much more trade discussion after the All-Star break is over, when kind of that's all that's on anyone's mind. We've got the draft done, we've got the All-Star game done, and then it'll be nothing but trade. But until then, in the meantime, there's been a lot of chatter online, including a lot of questions from Giants Talk listeners about ESPN's trade deadline list they do every year, ranking the top 100 trade candidates. And the chatter has mostly been because within the top 10 are two Giants, one of whom hasn't come up a ton on Giants Talk here, and that's Jung-Hoo Lee at number 7 on ESPN's list, just 2 spots ahead of Luis Arias.
I have heard from some other teams that there's just, some curiosity. Just like, would they? I'll say I think he's in that boat of like, you have to listen, and you have to see what's out there. I'd separate him from Elliott in this respect, that one, it's a much different money conversation, so that's going to impact the return quite a bit, and what kind of return you're looking at if you do have that conversation. Two, he's like such an important piece to so many people in this fan base, and this is one of those where I always try to keep in mind, because I think a lot of our listeners, I know last podcast you shouted out like our international listeners, and I think a lot of people, not just who listen, but a lot of people who are very online for the Giants, this is not a knock, but they just don't go to games very often. They maybe can't go to games very often. They're not around, or they live like in Southern California or England or Australia or whatever. And I think when you go to games, you get a different sense of what Jung-Hoo Lee means to the live fan base.
Yeah, when you're at games, Jung-Hoo Lee is the Giants.
Yes. He's very clearly like the most popular player in the ballpark. So I do think that matters. And I think, look, they're not in a position where they can just say like, we need people who we sell a lot of jerseys. Like they can't be part of trade discussions. But I do think that matters. And I think that's important to remember. And that's something that I think people who just aren't here would miss. Just like you go to a fair amount of games as a fan, like he's very, very popular in the ballpark.
He gets his name chanted like unlike any player that I can remember in recent memory. When he comes up with the place goes nuts. There, at least at one point, were 2 separate, distinct cheering sections. Yeah. One Giants sanctioned, one not. I mean, he's got lore. It's pretty awesome.
And the other thing I'll say is they have to examine everything. They also, the Jung-Hoo money should not be a part of this at all. And this is funny because like 2 months ago, you and I were talking about how that contract borderline approaches some of the other ones.
Yeah. And all of a sudden.
He's been really good now for most of this season. And actually you look at the contract and you're like, it's not that much money. Like,
yes.
And this is a time where I think you have to remember these are the San Francisco Giants, and like popular guy who plays a position where you've had trouble developing people over the years and has been very productive this season. And really like, I'm not making excuses for him, but like if you look at his first 2 years, like the first year he
Not his fault.
First year, not his fault. And then the second year, I think he just ran out of gas. And I think the second year was his true rookie year adjustment to Major League Baseball. Like, you can look at the talent level of the guy they signed and go, yeah, this is who he's supposed to be. So this is a lot of what you can expect for the next 3 years. I just don't think, like, I don't put him in the same boat as the bigger contracts. Like, it's not a lot of money, and the San Francisco Giants should not be worried about an outfielder making $20 million a year if he's productive. And he's, so if someone blows you away for a Jung-Hoo Lee or a Casey Schmidt or an Elliot Ramos and has a lot of pitching to offer, and you think you have enough lineup depth next year, then yeah, you have those conversations. But I really don't think Jung-Hoo, like, I think they would have to be blown away on the Jung-Hoo thing, because it's not like you're like, okay, we can get out from under 140 million on this one. Like, he's a reasonably priced player. He's very popular and plays a position where I like Bo Davidson. I like Dakota Jordan. I think one of these young infielders is probably going to end up in the outfield just because that's how it goes. But, like, currently not a ton of depth. So
that's why it's so shocking to see him so high on a list like this. And I don't want to accuse ESPN of not knowing ball, but it kind of seems like the kind of thing that if you go to Giants games, if you follow the Giants, it's crystal clear he's not number one on the Giants trade candidates list. But then again, we're talking about it. It's people all around Giants fandom are sending this article around. So, articles have purposes beyond what their stated purpose is.
Yeah. I never, I've made a few lists in my career. They're pretty random.
Nothing goes viral like a list, Alex. These two guys should be swapped. This guy's too high. What are you thinking? People's lists really get people's juices flowing.
It's such a good way. I mean, people don't even no one even quote tweets articles anymore. They just go like, the Giants have 6 guys in the ESPN trade top 100.
Exactly.
And I'm always like, no disrespect to the writers, but also, can we step back and what did you just say? Yes. What do you mean the Giants have 6 guys in the? This isn't the Giants have 6 guys on the home run leaderboard. This is It's but I think you put it here and I didn't delete it because we haven't
questions about it.
Yeah, we haven't addressed Jung-Hoo Lee's trade possibilities really at all because we've been so focused on other people.
Yeah. Well, Jung-Hoo Lee getting traded would be devastating to, I think, a lot of Giants fans. We will talk a lot more trade as the rest of July happens. Let's circle back to this Blue Jays series, though, Alex. Giants had a brush with disaster on Wednesday night as they almost got no hit by Dylan Cease at home, which I believe would have been the first opposing team no-hitter at Oracle Park, which is shocking, being such a pitcher-friendly ballpark with an offense that has many times found itself lacking over the past 20 years. But yeah, Elliot Ramos to the rescue, bailed him out at the last second. Not the first no-hitter taken to the 9th we've seen on either side. But I don't know, it's an exciting type of game. I was kind of at the point where I wanted it to happen just because they're so fun to see.
Someone told me that most of the ballpark, I was off yesterday. I was doing something with you, and someone told me most of the ballpark left after the hit, and it was almost like even Giants fans were.
I get it.
Even Giants fans were hanging around to see if it would happen. That would have been. I mean, that's rock bottom for the season. I think specific rock bottom moment is home run was I guess it was top of the 9th, home run to left center, and as the camera's panning out, or no, not the home run, the Dalton Varsho play in the 8th.
Oh, yeah.
The camera's panning out. You can see on the scoreboard Tyler Rogers is warming up, and it's okay, so Tyler Rogers, who's remains a perfect fit for this Giants team that is 16 games under 500 in large part because of their bullpen, is warming up just in case, guy runs into a pitch count issue during his no-hit attempt, and he might be part of a combined. If Dylan sees, he's a few pitches away, I think, from Rogers.
Yeah,
trying to get a combined no-no. So that to me was like the specific low point of the season. I believe he was warming up as those balls were rocketing out to left center as well.
Yep.
In the top of the ninth. So that was, yeah.
I mean, we had said on this podcast that, it's easy to say rock bottom when they haven't been no hit yet. They haven't been hit and ball tricked yet. There's a lot of bottoms left to go. And then here we are a week, 2 weeks later, and they come awful close. But hey, Elliot Ramos got them out of it. It's I was excited for it. And, he got a huge standing ovation, round of applause. Dylan Cease did when he got pulled out of the game. Tyler Rogers came in. But I know you don't like to dive into the being the fan part, but at some point during a no-hit or perfect game bid against your team, I feel like most fans do come around to wanting to see it.
Oh, yeah. No, I was pissed that I wasn't there. I was, you and I were doing something, and actually one of our promotions guys can vouch for this. I had my stuff with me, and he was like, "Are you going to the game afterwards?" And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, but I don't like to miss Logan starts because he's come close a couple times over the last couple of years to no hitters. And I texted people late in the game, like I was like half right that I felt like I should go to this game.
You had the energy in the air.
Had the energy in the air, the wrong side. I think that it's going to be hard to top that. Like they might end up like 23 games under or whatever. It's going to be hard to top almost getting no hit at home by, what has been not a very good team.
Yeah.
And a team that you crushed the first night of the series and then just totally, as the Giants do, I think they have 8 double-digit scoring games this year, and they've lost the next day 5 times. They just are allergic to momentum.
That hangover.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of 2013, which I think is a quote you and I referenced a lot. And a lot of Giants people probably do without even knowing it. But when they got no hit by Homer Bailey in 2013, and it's like a horrible title defense, and they were in Cincinnati, and I pulled up my game story, and Bruce Bochy said, "Hopefully this is rock bottom. You hope this is as low as it gets." And what stood out to me was also in that game story, I wrote they're 5 under for the first time since like 2009, whatever it was. Like they were 5 under. Not this
5 under seems so
under.
Quaint, so adorable.
You'd kill for 5 under right now.
Incredible.
Literally. So it's a reminder there's like different levels of losing the last few years than even what they dealt with during some of those supposed down years a decade ago or before.
Yeah. And then let's not forget that Dylan Cease was a free agent not that long ago after his stint with the Padres. I don't remember. Did we tie him to the Giants at all in 2025?
No, I think I put him on the list of they are absolutely not going to sign this guy. they don't believe in it. They're not. They're just we're never gonna be close on that one. So he got a lot of money, and I think at the time we even talked about how we didn't love that contract. And there's a lot of money left on that deal, but also like, hey, he's really good this year. And
and the team has had historic success, pretty close to winning it all.
Yeah, I mean they'll, if he's in the postseason this year for him pitching a wild card game, like they won't really care that he has 180 million left on that deal or whatever.
Exactly. All right. If we're talking pitching, let's pop around to a few other starting pitchers. We saw our old friend Kevin Gausman, which was the one pitcher the Giants were able to tag with a loss. They piled on him for early runs. And then Logan Webb, another rough outing, just getting kind of like singled to death, followed by a home run on Wednesday morning in the first inning. He was pretty strong after that, but I'm ready for him to right his ship and get back to June Logan Webb.
Yeah, 72 miles per hour, 65 miles per hour, 71 miles per hour, and then grand slam. That look, a grand slam is a grand slam, but that's a home run in 2 ballparks. So
yeah,
that's pretty. There was a lot of Logan conversation online last night. You have to also I think you have to be fair to guys in terms of there weren't rockets all over the ballpark. So it is weird to say 5 runs. That's a tough 5 runs to give up. That actually is a tough 5 runs to give up. And there are other times where Logan gives up 11 hits in 4 innings to the Padres, and you're like, they had him that night. But this was like literally bloop, 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 grand slam, and then he was good the rest of the way. So I don't make much of his outing. I think it happens to pitchers sometimes.
Yeah, especially for like a contact pitcher like Logan Webb. Those aren't necessarily the kind of outings you can avoid. So obviously extra rough seeing what the guy did on the other side. But hey, All-Star breaks around the corner. Let's come out fresh in the second half of July.
He's going to Philly, so he'll
that's right.
can't take that away from him.
That's right. Also on the mound, Trevor McDonald gets absolutely rocked on Tuesday. Just rough overall. There's not a ton of silver linings from this series once you get past that Gosmic game.
Yeah, Trevor's was a little bit different in that it was 11 hits and 2 1/3, which has been done twice in franchise history. Incredibly, once by Gaylord Perry, who's in the Hall of Fame, and once by Mark Gardner, who was like, had some solid times. So it's a pretty rare pitching line. We'll see what they do. There's some rotation things coming this week. Carson Wisenhunt's in San Francisco. Seems like he will start by the time most people listen to this. Might be lined up to start Thursday. They do have to watch Roop and McDonald. I mean, they do have to be careful with their innings too. And going into the All-Star break, good opportunity to get Wisenhunt in the mix. And I think the interesting one, and I asked Tony about this after Tuesday's game, was just where do you go with Hauser, who first Giants reliever since like 1970 something to throw 5+ no-hit innings. And this is the second time we've seen him come out of the bullpen as a bulk guy and pitch pretty well, which these are accidental openers, but I've gotten a lot of things wrong this season. I'll raise my hand on 100%. Giants should have tried an opener in front of Adrian Hauser before just straight moving him to the bullpen. But I am curious. This kind of goes back to the Tyler Malley conversation you and I had before, where kind of got to throw him back in the rotation at some point, because if he gets hot for a couple weeks, it's actually not that hard to shop him around. So
yeah, they should. Honestly, I wish for the past few weeks they had been really strategically lining his starts up against the weakest offense to just kind of pad those numbers superficially.
Well, he goes out there against a team that just gets 11 hits and then gives up 0. So
true.
This is a guy who's been around a long time, and even though that contract looks bad, he's had some good stretches in the big leagues just as a starter or as a swingman, and everyone needs pitching in July. And I think we always have to remember, like, he reminded me a little bit of Drew Pomeranz, which is a bit of a different case, but Drew also really struggling as a starter. They did have the conversation with Drew about using an opener with him and then just straight up moved him to the bullpen. And he's a lefty, velocity ticks up, and they're like, okay, well, now he's a pretty good trade candidate. And it happened really quickly. It was like 2 weeks that he became like a trade candidate. So this would be different. Drew obviously is a hard-throwing lefty as a reliever, is a different case, but it reminds me a bit of that. And I've also been reminded a few times as I've gone back through my notes the last week that they signed Trevor Rosenthal and he never pitched for them, and they traded him like 9 days later. So pitching at the deadline, you can always trade pitching at the deadline. So I'm curious to see what they do the rest of this week and then kind of the 2 weeks coming out of the rotation, because they really need to put some guys in a position where they can succeed and they can go, okay, they have all the in-house. I mean, Wisenhunt's, we want to see Wisenhunt. I think we want to see Tidwell again. You have Bivens back now, where everyone's like, he could have been here the whole time. So they have plenty of guys who can come up and fill these spots in the second half.
Yeah. You mentioning the Drew Pomeranz trade takes me to our next segment, which is a special remembering some guys. What I did, I went ahead and put together a list of all the trade deadline selling acquisitions, not the guys they got because they were buying, the guys they got because they were selling. Kind of wanted to check in on where they are now. How did that pan out? And if I'm being honest, looking at this list in its entirety doesn't give me super high excitement for selling some talented players for a potential future. But We'll go through it. I put together names from 2017, 2019, and 2022. Last year is so recent, I don't think we need any major updates on those guys. But 2017, they traded Matt Moore to the Texas Rangers, another ninth inning no-hitter guy. Got back Sam Wolf, briefly got to AAA Sacramento, retired a few years ago, and is currently working a non-baseball job in South Dakota. I'm always interested to see these non-baseball gigs the retired players end up landing. And then Israel Cruz got to low A ball and retired around the same time in 2022. So not a real impactful return at the end of the day for Matt Moore.
Yeah, he also was pretty bad after that.
Yeah, he was. So lose either way.
Yeah, that did in 2016 for a few months. That looked like it'd work out. And then after that, it was like, oops, this guy still bouncing around though.
Eduardo Nunez was another 27 deal, got sent to Boston for Gregory Santos, who is on his second stint with the Giants now, and for Sean Anderson, who, I don't know, there was a minute where I thought Sean Anderson was going to be a guy, but then they flipped him for Lamont Wade Jr., who did become a guy.
Remember when Sean Anderson hit a double and he was standing on second base, like cheering, and we're like, is this the next
Bumgarner, this massive dude with long hair? Absolutely.
Sean Anderson's still bouncing around as well. Gregory Santos is now a free agent. Giants quietly snuck him through waivers, and so that second run did not turn
into an end.
So
I would say through the Lamont Wade Jr. element of this, though, they did get some of that, a good amount of value and a good Giant out of this one.
Wade is a huge win. Yes.
2019, let's start with Drew Pomeranz, who you already mentioned, and Ray Black to the Brewers. This was one that did pan out, getting back Mauricio Dubon, who had a great Giants story and some fantastic Giants moments. Disappointing that they dealt him, but they were in a tough spot where they had to choose between two guys. We've gone over this one 1,000 times. And obviously we just saw him as he's currently with the Braves, has since racked up a World Series trophy, multiple gold gloves, and is having himself a great career.
Dubon's turned into a good player, and he's a good example of, like, I think they need to really search for pitching in the next month, obviously. But he's a good example of kind of what they're missing in their system right now, which is he was basically big league ready when they got him, and it was, it took him a little bit, but they're missing that group of guys. Like, so I'm curious if they pull back a little bit and just go, hey, everyone we need to get for the most part probably needs to be a pitcher. And also probably everyone we need to get needs to be like AA, AAA level and a little bit older, so they can help the next couple of years until, Gonzalez and Hernandez and Weddle and all these guys are here.
Yeah. Also 2019, they managed to somehow deal Mark Melancon, getting back Dan Winkler, who retired a few years ago. And according to his Instagram, just attended his first post-retirement MLB game this past week. So good for you. That's got to be a fun experience as a former big leaguer, or as a former baseball player, I guess, not big leaguer. And then Tristan Beck was part of that Mark Melancon deal, who's had a great Giants career.
Did not think I was getting Dan Winkler updates on Giants Talk today.
Hey,
You dug deep. Yeah, that was a really good trade just because they got out from some money.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they'd ever be able to trade Mark Melancon. So
yeah, not only got out for some money, but like that was one of those guys I was not unhappy to see go.
I think that was one of Farhan's best moves.
Yes, I think so.
I'll trade him, and I'm also going to get a couple young pitchers back.
Yeah, incredible. He had some good swindles. Then again, 2019, Sam Dyson to the Twins for a trio of strong players. Jalen Davis had some great moments. Currently now with the Rockies as a player development coach. I don't know how that one slipped through the cracks for me, remembering some guys. Prolander Baroa and Kai-Wei Tang, who's having himself a nice little year last I checked, but I think that has fallen apart a little bit.
Yeah, disappointing what happened with this return. Like, two pitchers who could have been pretty good. Like, they have the stuff to be pretty good, just never got there. Baroa's had the injuries. We've talked about him a fair amount over the years, just because he looked like that was a horrible trade when they got rid of him, and just hasn't quite gotten there. But Sam Dyson, I don't think he ever pitched again after that, or didn't pitch many times, and he had some legal issues. And
yeah, a lot went sideways with Sam
yeah,
Dyson. Glad
so,
we don't have to think
yeah,
that they can beat the Giants.
yeah, that was a good trade.
Yeah, another good trade. Let's jump ahead one more year to 2022 with Darren Ruff getting traded to the Mets. This got back JD Davis, who also had a nice little Giants career and is currently playing independent league ball in Kansas City. Thomas Zapucki, Carson Seymour, and Nick Zwack. Those last two who are still in the Giants system.
Still hanging around. Darren Ruff trade, obvious win for Farhan and the Giants.
Yeah.
They just the JD Davis aspect of it was huge. And I think this is, I don't know if you did this on purpose. I think you chose some good deadlines in terms of what we have ahead of us, because 22, remember, they also traded Kirk Casale and Matt Boyd just like random, like at the end. And I do think we're going to see some of that. There's going to be like much bigger conversation, and certainly like whatever Arias deal happens is going to be a big deal nationally. I do think we're probably also going to see some of like a couple relievers, maybe Mallory or a Hauser, these smaller deals where you're getting some guys back. You hope they're good, but it's just mostly like 22 where they just were like, okay, the season's over. And
fresh starts.
Time to get some guys out of here, save a little bit of money, give them some fresh starts. I think Casale and Boyd end up going to the postseason with the Mariners. Nothing ever came of that in terms of a return, but cleared some spots for other guys. So that's probably part of the right move here too. In addition to the big stuff, it's just like, is there a couple guys from the bullpen who you trade somewhere? You hope you get something back for them, and you replace them with guys internally who maybe have a better shot of helping you next year.
Yeah. I mean, this certainly isn't one of those Giants deadlines where it's like, they're meandering around 500 and they should just trade their one big ace pitcher. I've had a few of those where they ended up not pulling the trigger, but this is much more of a not much to salvage here. Let's see what we can get.
I mean, I think you could trade like 5 or 6 guys and maybe like mostly not be big deals, and and just see, add some depth to your farm system and open some spots for guys who the second half, August, September, really needs to be a bit of an audition for 27.
Yeah.
Some of those spots need to be opened up.
Well, the starter gun for the flurry section of the trade deadline will happen not long after the All-Star game. So we'll be talking a lot more about trades throughout the month of July. One more unrelated, remembering of some guys, let's give a shout out to Justin Verlander, who has announced this is his final year of professional baseball. Did not quite make it to that fabled 300 win total that there was so much discussion about when he was a Giant. And that also means I think he's far enough from that total that the Giants do not get to be blamed for robbing him of a dozen wins.
Whew. A lot.
Oh man.
411. What? We burned this one down. Like we talked about this way too often, but it did seem like they legitimately, like for a while, cost him a shot at 300 realistically. Like especially when you saw the way he pitched in the second half, and you know what happened in the first half, like felt like they cost him a shot. I want to tell a quick Verlander story. I don't think you would mind me telling this now. He had a baby last year, and I went up to Sacramento to see Bryce Eldridge, to interview Bryce. It's like 105 degrees. And I look out there and I'm like, that looks like Justin Verlander throwing a bullpen session. And I think he came home from a road trip because he just had the baby. He wasn't going to pitch in the next city. And he drove up to Sacramento in the middle of that and threw a bullpen session with all the TrackMan, Edgar Tronic, all that, coaches, full jersey, full Giants gear, full bullpen session. It was 105 in the middle of the day, and then drove back. And I just remember thinking, like, he doesn't have to, nobody would have blamed Justin Verlander if he just went to the ballpark to play catch or like just have a lighter bullpen session or went down to San Jose. And I asked him afterwards, and he's like, well, I need to do the full prep for my next start and like need to work on some things. And I do think he actually found some things in that bullpen session that helped him in the second half, but it showed me why he is Justin Verlander. Because he didn't take the like I can do whatever I want. I'm Justin Verlander. I'm this team's not very good. I'm this deep into my career. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. Like I could just be at home right now with the new baby, or I could just go play catch at the ballpark. Or sometimes guys go like play catch at a park or something.
Yeah.
Like literally just go play catch at a park with a friend if they're in that type of situation. But he drove a couple hours and to full jersey in the heat, and it was a good example of the way he has approached his entire career. And yeah, I was really impressed just watching him go through that. It's an empty ballpark, and this guy's out there grunting and trying to throw 99. And
the Sacramento Heat.
Yeah, I mean, he lived up to everything you would expect of someone who's been that good and that respected around the game. Like covering him last year, he lived up to every bit of that. So I was really impressed just watching him for a year and the way he went about things.
Yeah.
And the way I remember watching him after one game, sitting with Birdsong for like an hour after a start and trying to help him through things. And
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think some of my biggest Verlander memories were him holding court with the young pitchers, whether it was one guy or just being surrounded by folding chairs in the bullpen, talking stories, talking mechanics, just being like this great mentor to have in the clubhouse for a team that honestly had a lot of young pitching talent on it. And I have to imagine those guys benefited immensely from that presence.
He was around a ton. So sometimes we get guys in here who have been other places and have been famous elsewhere, and they're not the easiest to deal with while they're here. He was unbelievable. He was great with the media. He was great with everybody behind the scenes. So wish him the best. And I hope I hope he's injured right now. I do hope there's like a last chapter to this story.
Yeah.
Where he gets back on the mound. And Detroit, I think, is like 4.5 out of a playoff spot. So it'd be pretty cool if he got to just air it all out for a couple months here, knowing you have no more pitches left after this.
Hats off to Justin Verlander. All right, we've got mailbag questions. We've got a quick preview of Giants versus Rockies. And of course, we have to get to you and Kylen's interview with Buster Posey. But first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World offers high-quality mattresses for ultimate comfort and support, so you wake up energized and refreshed every morning. Mancini Sleep World has been helping people sleep better for over 50 years. They've built a reputation for top-quality mattresses and exceptional customer service. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. All right, Alex, our first mailbag question of the day is from Josh. Josh says, with media outlets beginning to talk about Devers being in trade discussions, I was curious why superstar hitter for superstar pitcher trades are not more common in the MLB. Are there any big pitcher contracts that would fit in a Devers trade, either reliefs or starters?
It's a great question. I think generally when you see superstars get traded to teams in a position where they want 3 or 4 prospects, that's most of what you see in baseball. There just aren't a lot of it's not like some other sports where maybe you have to line up salary and things like that. So it's
also if you're in a position where you need to trade your superstar, it's usually because you're selling. It's not like we're one pitcher away from going to the playoffs. Well, all of a sudden you're down your biggest batter then too, and the whole playoff discussion has changed.
It's usually not great. I looked through some of the biggest pitcher contracts. I only found 2 that really would even maybe work here. One is just bad. Aaron Nola has been bad in Philadelphia. He's 33 years old. There's 4 years left on what at the time was $172 million. So that feels like a step backwards, even with the awkward fit of Devers. This one I think is somewhat interesting. Corbin Burns, who we've has been connected to the Giants. They were interested in him.
Mm-hmm.
He has $140 million left on his deal. He had Tommy John. He hasn't, contributed in Arizona. I think he's going to be back in September of this year. That one was a little bit interesting to me because he's actually on paper, probably makes a ton of sense for both sides. They don't really have a first baseman there in Arizona. I think Devers would make that one of the best lineups in baseball. They also have some pitching issues there, so they probably want Corbin Burns there too, and also would be an in-division trade. So that's really really tricky. But
mega trade like this would be fascinating to see.
Yeah,
he's a St. Mary's guy, right?
He is. So just in terms of like, if you actually did something like this, that's probably the closest I could find. But I also think that's not going to happen. Like, we're not even, would probably reasons for both sides where they'd be like, that makes sense, but also like, that's, don't love that. So
yeah. Devers just hitting in the heat for,
oh man,
just preying on the Giants for the next few years.
Marte, Perdomo, Carroll, Devers. That would be
that is interesting.
Lineup.
That is interesting. All right. Next question is from Sean. Sean says, you mention often the Arise trade that has to happen. I don't disagree. I always agreed Schmidt should get the first shot at second base. But is there a world where they trade Schmidt instead? Arise just seems perfect for what they want and need, and also is fun to watch. Although I'm talking myself out of this as I type it.
There's a world. I'm sure they'll get some calls on Casey from teams, especially that are like, hey, he could play third base for us. I still don't think it makes sense to keep Arias. There's a lot of reasons.
Arias, whether they keep him or not, every team's going to be on Arias watch this offseason. Like, it's not automatic. They don't trade him. They will have first crack. He's guaranteed to resign here as a Giant.
But even if you resign him, there's probably, I don't know, at least like a $12, $13 million difference between those two next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a pitcher. That's a Tyler Rogers average annual value. Like, so they need to clear the spot. They need to clear some salary. They need to be better set up for the future. But yeah, that's where we stand on Arise.
It'll be really interesting to see this offseason what types of deals Arise fields or gets offered. Because I'm curious if he's looking at some very long-term kind of situation. I see a lot of proposals from listeners that are like, can't they just get him for 2 more years if he's not okay with coming back for 1? I get the impression that this deal's going to have like 6 or 7 on it.
I think he's very well liked by a lot of people around the game, and the fact that he figured out second base is really going to help. He had a good reputation anyway, and people like him, and he's a good clubhouse guy. So there's a lot of reasons to like him other than the defense coming into this year. And now the defense is fixed, and not just fixed, like Gold Glove level. So he's going to do well.
Next question is from Brendan. More of an idea than a question. Brendan says, trade idea. Giants trade Adames and Devers and use the money they don't have to eat to re-sign Arias to a 4-year deal with an opt-out maybe after 3. This slides Schmidt over to shortstop, which I don't think there's much doubt he can handle long-term. The rest of the money goes to pitching, shoot for Skubal, but at the least get a couple back-end pieces.
Oh, easy.
Just trade Adames and Devers without eating any of that money.
Brendan solved everyone's problems in 30 seconds. I don't think we're gonna have many Skubal conversations. So
can't imagine we are.
I don't just being realistic here. The other thing I'll say, I think Casey's a really good player, and I think he's a terrific third baseman and would be a really good second baseman. I don't know that he's a shortstop long term.
Yeah.
His skills are a better fit at second and third. So I wouldn't count on that, even if he's more of a, I think he can do it for a year if they need him to, but they at some point will need someone else in there.
Yeah. I mean, if they were able to pull this off, I'm all for it. Excellent work. But I think there's several roadblocks along the way of this one.
So easy. Just they're trade machine. You can just throw these guys in and be done with it.
Bo says, Buster has said they will not trade Webby, but does anyone believe the ownership or front office will invest in free agent pitching to replace Ray and another really good mid-rotation arm the next offseason, plus spend on the back end of the bullpen? I personally don't, considering they've openly talked about not spending big on pitching in the past. Webb is a free agent after 2018, and by then he will have another 400 to 500 innings on his arm. So we think they would give him an Aaron Nola type extension at the minimum. They let Bumgarner walk.
Do I think the Giants will spend on pitching this offseason? They should.
They should.
The recent history says they don't love to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they learned some tough lessons this year, but I don't think we're going to have a lot of Skubal conversations. I have a lot of Freddie Peralta conversations.
Okay.
But we're lower levels.
And then what about a Webb extension at some point?
That's a good one for down the line. I think a lot of it. I honestly think a lot of it depends on not them, but on Logan. And does he, if he is still here when it's time for that, does he believe that they will get him to the postseason? He is desperate to get back to the postseason. So I think that's the only thing he thinks about. And so if they offered him an extension right now, he probably would be like, I'm going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
And see if I can pitch in the playoffs at some point before I'm 39 years old. Get him back there. But yeah, they should have learned a lesson from this year. We'll see if they actually did.
Adrian asks, should we be expecting that post Tommy John surgery Birdsong will be a rotation guy next season? I feel like Webb, Roop, Wisenhunt, McDonald, and Birdsong is pretty solid 5, allowing the Giants to focus on getting better arms in the bullpen.
Hayden had surgery March 25th, so he's looking at, he's realistically looking a couple months into next year when his back is an option. I would not pencil him into any rotation plans for next year. It'd be great. It just I don't think you can do that. Like, maybe he's a real option in the second half. Maybe they bring him back as a reliever. Maybe he's well ahead of schedule, but I just don't think you can pencil him into any plans. And I also think, like, we've seen some good things from some of these young guys. We've also seen some really rough starts from some of these young guys and some real inconsistency and some concerning things. And that's why I think the entire second half needs to be like, run them out there every 5 days and figure out who can be in your rotation next year.
Yep.
Who's in your bullpen next year. And are any of them in AAA just waiting as like a 7th guy? Because I don't think you can pencil any of these, maybe Roop. Roop would be the one that he's shown enough over 3 years, even though there's been some rough stretches this year. But the other guys, we haven't seen enough to be like, okay, you're set for 27. Again, we've learned that lesson. Like, you need extra layers there.
Let's throw in one more silly one before we get to Rockies series and Buster Posey. Luke asks, what are the chances we get Casey Schmidt to play at least one inning at all 9 positions in the field this season? Considering the non-existent chances to make the playoffs this year and the recent self-inflicted bad publicity, it would give us something to root for. This is a fun one. This is something I've been wishing the Giants would let someone do. I was hoping it'd be Buster Posey back when, because he did this in college. But this doesn't seem like the kind of team that's going to want to subject itself to becoming a deliberate sideshow. In the middle of all this, just starting to do clown stuff does not seem like a Buster Posey move.
This was talked about multiple times with Pablo Sandoval late in his career. Pablo had caught before.
Yeah.
And was an emergency catcher at times. That's the barrier here, is like,
every time I see old pictures of Pablo with catcher's gear on from his rookie year, I kind of get taken aback. Like, wait, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you could talk me into letting Casey play like every other position. I think having him catch an inning in an ABS world would be just kind of a joke. So it's a fun idea. I also don't think Tony is at all the type of manager. He likes to have fun, but I think this season's he's well aware of the type of baseball they're playing, obviously. And I don't think he's the type who at the end of the year would be like, let's mess around a little bit.
This is the kind of thing you get to do on game 162 when you clinched in August. It's not the kind of thing you get to do when you're 20 games under.
Yeah, or if it's like just an older team that some things happened and like Bruce Bochy's the manager and goes, Pablo's basically my, one of my kids, and let's have some fun with this at the end of the year. The Giants have had seasons where they've done things at the end where you go like, okay, that's okay. I think you nailed it on the head. If they did something at the end of this year, it'd be like, really, 2026 Giants, this is what you're finishing with?
You're flipping a bat on a breaking up a no-hitter. It's basically what that would be. You're down 10 runs.
I love it. Everyone pay close attention to Elliot Ramos flips every single time. All
right. With that, let's talk Giants versus Rockies. Oh, and if you have any mailbag questions for Giants Talk, go ahead and hit them to us wherever you can find Alex or myself on social media. All right, Giants Rockies, the Giants' current rivalry series as they duke it out for last place in the NL West. Alex, who do we have on the mound?
A lot of TBAs. It should be Wisenhunt versus Feltner on Thursday, and then I think Gordon versus Ray, Freeland versus Malley, and Lorenzen versus Trevor McDonald. I have nothing to say about this series except I believe it's for last place in the National League West heading into the All-Star break.
All right. A lot on the line here, and the Rockies have had pretty good ownage on the Giants this year. Giants dropped a series in May and a series in July, which, as we've talked about, these are the games you have to win if you want to be at all competitive in the NL West.
They are currently separated by one game.
Oh, no. In a 4-game series coming up.
The Rockies actually just gave the Dodgers like a handful for 3 days at Dodger Stadium.
I saw that. Yeah.
So this is Monday's podcast could be real fun one.
At least we'll have a distraction to talk about. We can talk trade, or we can talk all-star festivities of years past for an hour. And draft. Oh, draft is almost here.
There's going to be somebody new.
Yep. Yeah. So, we'll have plenty to talk about with the last place Giants. Also on the promotion schedule, Friday is Black Heritage Night Fireworks Night. So stay after the game. Very great fireworks show. Saturday is the Gigantes Aloha shirt. The Aloha shirts are like I don't collect bobbleheads, Alex. I collect the Aloha shirts. My closet's full of them. I ran the Giants race in one like every year when they did that.
I could see that.
And then Sunday is SpongeBob SquarePants hat. There's a few of these promotions that just I don't get. They miss me entirely. That's one of them.
Oh,
I maybe, but I don't get this one.
I've seen the SpongeBob hat. It looks kind of cool.
So, are you going to be wearing that on the pod? Are you a big sponge head?
I will not be, but I thought actually I was like, oh, they did a good job with that one. So
I didn't know there was like a sitting fandom audience for SpongeBob SquarePants the way Hello Kitty has one. Like there's just SpongeBob fans out there waiting for a merch drop.
Yeah, we haven't. My toddler has not hit SpongeBob yet, but I imagine that's coming. So might have to get him a SpongeBob hat.
Hey, snag one.
It looked actually like well done. Like
it doesn't look like some silly merch. It's like a classy hat with a little sponge man.
Yeah, it looks really well done. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, with that, let's kick it to you and Kylen sitting down with Giants legend, Giants Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, president of baseball operations, Buster Posey. Alex, what do you guys cover here? What do we need to know going into the interview?
Talked to him on Monday before this series, so nothing from this series, but talked some trade deadline, some Arias, some Logan Webb, some draft, which is coming up. They are all dug in on the draft. Like anything, even though we just did like 40 minutes of trade discussion spread over a million different topics, I don't think they're going to pick any of that up until Monday. So this is they brought everybody to Oracle Park. They're getting every eye on every draft pick. So
I'm excited. I haven't sat down and watched a draft in a very long time, and I'm watching this one.
We'll see. I mean, there's a very easy prospect of Giants stock out there, and probably not going to be a Giant, but
I might call you. We'll speakerphone it together as we get through that moment.
Okay, we can.
All right.
With
that, here is Buster with Alex and Kylen.
Buster, as always, appreciate the time. Great to have you on. Let's start with some positive news. And Luis Arias being named an MLB All-Star with a fourth different team now. How has he exceeded even your expectations coming into the season? What makes him so special, if you can put it into words?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to point to what he does offensively, the way he's able to go deep into at bats, rarely strikes out. The defense has been talked about a lot this year with his work that he's done with Wash, and that's been great to watch. But I think as much as anything, as you see, for me, what makes him special is he's the type of player that other players gravitate to, whether it is on the offensive side, defensive side, in the dugout, clubhouse. He's just a very likable guy. And you can see the competition come out in all things he's doing. I think that's what stood out to us this offseason when we were recruiting him to come here, was just the competitor just screamed when it was coming out of him when we were talking to him.
Yeah, he's also such a joy to watch. A lot of fans have fallen in love with Luis Ariz. I think Mike Krukow said on the radio that he's going to cry if he gets traded. For fans who do love to watch him so much, is there any scenario where he would come back next season? Are you having any discussions about that? And I know for a lot of reasons it would make sense to move him in a potential trade, but kind of what are those considerations like?
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a great player. You want great players. Right now, as I mentioned before we came on camera, there's a lot of draft discussions right now with the draft coming up in another few days here. But yeah, I think you keep all options on the table and you make the best decision you can with the information that you have.
Another infielder who's had a very good year, didn't make the All-Star team, Casey Schmidt, but I think he was a candidate. I watched him play third base over the weekend. I had the same thought when I watched him fill in for Luis for a couple of days. Like, he belongs on the dirt very clearly. How much do you think about Casey's future and what you might have to do to find him a spot where he can just be an infielder full time?
Well, I think where my head goes first and foremost is just the job that he's done moving around. You mentioned third, second, even left field. He's held his own. Not an easy thing to do. A guy that's never played out there. So it speaks, one, to me, is the type of teammate he is and wants to contribute any way possible. And he's obviously made some really nice strides offensively this year as well. But yeah, you see him at third. I mean, I heard about it before he got here, just like the type of skill set that he had, the ability to really make the outstanding play like we saw in Colorado. And as much as anything, I think you're seeing a guy that's starting to believe for a while now that he belongs in the big leagues. And sometimes that's more than half the battle, is just believing yourself that you belong to be here and stay here. And no, we're excited about his future.
There's a question I wanted to ask you for a couple of weeks. Last time you met with the media, someone asked you about listening to offers for Logan Webb, and you were just a very quick no. I think devil's advocate from fans, from media would be, you probably are in a spot where you have to consider everything. Why is it a no on Logan in particular?
I just think he sets a tone and an example for us that, we're gonna be in a spot potentially where we, have some younger arms in the coming future. And for a guy like him who's been around and played with some great pitchers and now has himself turned into one, that it's important that there's a standard, and he sets that standard for us.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot made nationally of the potential of trading the big three who are on some big contracts with this organization. Where do you stand with the potential of moving any of those guys right now?
Well, I mean, I guess, unfortunately, you probably don't like this answer, but I mean, as much as different conversations and media stuff can impact trade outcomes, I'm going to somewhat plead the fifth on that. I will say, unfortunately, where we are with our season and what our record is, that I think we have to be open to some different ideas.
Have you heard more from people this year than last year? Just maybe the position you're in. Last year, it was the last 5-6 days before the deadline where it became clear what you guys were going to do. Are the calls different this year?
Maybe a little bit. I think some of it might be because we made the Devers move when we did last year and was a little bit unorthodox. So I think that might have something to do with it as well. Just teams checking in to see if there is any movement. But again, just year two of this for me, it seems like you get to this week and things are a little bit more slow just because teams are prepping for the draft.
That's one thing I hear every year is teams kind of pick up after the draft. It'll be Saturday, you pick fourth. It's a big pick for you, and it's much different than last year. How much more involved are you this time around, knowing that at the fourth pick, I mean, you were in that range as well as a player, how important that pick is?
I trust Michael Holmes and his group. I think they did a really nice job with our draft last year. I'm probably more involved and a little bit more vocal just because I think I have a better lay of the land of everything at this point. But again, I want to say that, Michael Holmes and his entire scouting group have been on these players now for multiple years, have a lot of time watching them, spending time with them and their families. And that's time that I can't, have myself. So we'll, undoubtedly rely heavily on them.
How much does your experience as a catcher play in when you look at the top of the board? There's a catcher there who's played big time college baseball. You're very close. I know Brandon Crawford went to see Rock and kind of give his opinion. How much are those things playing into what you guys do at number 4? Just your experience and some of your friends and those guys' experiences as well.
Yeah, I think everybody draws on their own experience when they're trying to make decisions. You also need to be asking a lot of questions and understand there's a lot of people in the room that have different and maybe more experience than you do when it comes to talent evaluation and have seen years and years and years of talent and what makes a good player. It's hard, right? I mean, I think the draft is a tough thing because you can look at somebody as an amateur on paper and it might look great, and then you get into pro ball, and pro ball is a different animal. So, it's definitely, as great as it is to have the number 4 pick, we need to get it right. But any of us who followed the drafts over the years know that you don't really know until you know with some of these guys. I think there's a few that'll come through, once in a generation type of talents. But yeah, until you see them out on the field in a uniform, go through the minors, and then, the next progression is getting to the big leagues, and the big leagues is a different animal all in itself.
Just going big picture, and this is draft and trade deadline. I know generally with the draft, it's best player available. And at the trade deadline, you're open to everything and you look at what's around. But you look at this organization, you're pretty set at the big league level from a position player standpoint. And in the minors, your top prospects are all middle infield guys, young guys. Is there a point where you focus more on pitching over the next month, and whether it's trades, whether it's the rest of the draft after the first round, do you have to be more aware of adding pitching to this organization?
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of answered the question by asking if you look in our system right now. I would even argue our you mentioned our top prospects. A lot of them are position players, and so yeah, we need to be opportunistic, I think, and trying to add pitching to our system, or whether it's at the big league level or the minor league level. But at the same time, I do, think when you're picking as high as we are in the draft, you got to consider, like we talked about, like, do you have an opportunity to add a franchise altering type of player? Because when you are picking that high, it's a possibility.
I know it's a busy time coming up for you with the draft, the trade deadline, but we are approaching the All-Star break, the midway point of the season. As you've gained more experience now in this front office role, like, how would you evaluate the job that you've done through the first half as you kind of look back, and are there any areas that you're still learning about?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a hard one to answer, like, to evaluate yourself. And I know there's plenty of people out there that are going to have plenty of opinions about my job I'm doing anyway. So I don't know how to answer that one specifically. I would say that it's still early. Mm-hmm. You're always learning. But I'm excited about our system. I really am. I think that there's some good things coming, as Alex mentioned. Hopefully we have an opportunity to add some pitching at some point, one way or another. And baseball's a funny game. I mean, it's been a disappointing season thus far. Still with a lot of games to go. And then, I got to live it year to year. 2010, we win it. We missed the playoffs again, win it 12, miss it. It's hard to put your finger on it sometimes. And I think that's what, it's what makes sports great is there's tons of prediction models out there, but it's one of the harder things to predict.
On the positive side of that, is there any pleasant surprises or individuals who've surprised you this season that you maybe didn't predict?
Well, we've already talked about Casey. I think he's been a big one. It's not a surprise, but it's been really good to see Robbie Ray and kind of how his last 3 or 4 outings has really, elevated his game to a spot that we all knew that he could get to. Killian's a good one for me to point to as well, a guy that's always started and now looks like, potentially a guy that we can continue to use in the back of the bullpen going forward. Devers is I think he's been beat up a lot, but you look at his numbers now and he's getting almost back to what he's been throughout his career. So yeah, there's a lot of things we can point to that haven't gone right, but it's hard. You got to find some of the positive as well and keep showing up.